Chapter 86 Fractured Hunt. The forest no longer sang. The hum they'd heard earlier had deepened, stretching into a vibration that ran through their bones. Not sound, not wind, but something subtler. The geometry of the world itself seemed slightly off, like every direction had shifted a few degrees. Bash slowed, raising a hand, eyes up. They spread into formation, Richter, Leora, and Dark pushing ahead. Bash mid-right flank, Terran left mid, Nair and Callan holding the rear. The metallic forest stretched silent before them, trunks like dark glass, roots like bent iron. Then, movement. Shapes emerged from behind the trees, tall, sinuous, mirror black forms sliding from shadow to light. 7 in total. The air bent around them, their outlines shimmering like water over heat. Contacts, Bash said quietly. Before anyone could aim, the beasts rippled. The 7 vanished. The world blinked, and when it came back, they were grown from ahead and standing around the team in a perfect circle, 50 meters out. Bash muttered, "They are surrounding." The Valeran Fasari didn't growl, didn't move, didn't breathe loud enough to be heard. They stood perfectly still, the faint distortion in the air marking their presence. 7 mirages waiting to pounce. Then they struck. Light twisted. Nair fired first, her scope flaring crimson. Callan followed, wind arrows streaking. Bash threw both blades. Terran fired her sidearms in the same instant. The melee trio surged forward, Richter's hammer crackling, Leora's blade glowing with mineral resonance, Dark's gauntlets humming. And then, spat, he folded. The beast phased as one, vanishing and reappearing on the opposite side of each target. Every range projectile, the bullets, the arrows, the knives, followed the distortion through and reemerged out of alignment. Nair's bullet punched through her own shoulder. Callan's arrow tore across his ribs. Bash's knife ripped a shallow gash along his back. Terran's bullets punctured her shoulder blade. The 3 melee Spartors stumbled as their swings met nothing, only for pain to bloom across their spines as invisible slashes tore through them. "Down!" Terran shouted, throwing herself between them. The crackling air still hummed with distorted echoes as she slid to her knees beside Richter, one hand already glowing faint green while healing herself. Essence flared through her palm and in to his armor, sealing the gash across his back with a hiss of vapor. She pivoted instantly, pressing her other hand against Leora's shoulder, then Bash's side. Each touch left trails of pale light that shimmered, pulsing in rhythm with their heartbeats. "Hold still," she hissed, breath tight. "No deep healing, just enough to keep you on your feet." The glow dimmed as she pulled her hands back, fingers trembling. The wound stopped bleeding, though pain still burned beneath the armor. The beast had already faded again, watching from beyond the trees. The forest around them bent strangely. Sounds echoed from the wrong direction. A branch snapping behind them echoed to the left. The crunch of boots came from above. Bash crouched, scanning the haze. "They are folding the terrain," he said. "We've seen distortions like this before, like the blink-step beasts. So they can face?" Richter growled, his hammer tightening in his grip. SC's voice flickered in his mind, sharp and precise. "Confirm, pack coordination detected. They're folding space collectively, forming a shared lattice. Their perception is doubled within it, intelligence level high." Bash's eyes narrowed. "They can phase as a pack," he said aloud, relaying what only he could hear. "And they're smart, coordinated." Richter grunted, hefting his hammer. "Great. So we're fighting geniuses that can teleport." The team tightened their formation, backs together in a defensive ring. Steam rose faintly from armor where the air distorted around them. "They're watching us," Terran said softly. "Good." Bash muttered, "That, and they'll listen, too." He turned toward Leora and Dark. "Direct barriers. Move them." Heard the bastards. Both nodded, slamming their gauntlets to the ground. Jagged mineral pillars erupted upward, forming shifting walls of metallic stone that boxed in the beast's outer circle. "Callan," Bash said, "shoot a wind arrow high. When they are distracted, curve it down. Hit one from above." Callan hesitated. "You want me to blind fire into a spatial fold?" "Yeah," Bash said flatly. "That's exactly what I want." The Fasari didn't move as the pillars began to close in. The air between them shimmered faintly, like ripples on still water. They had split into smaller groups, each pair mirroring the others, their outlines flickering like ghosts. "Now," Bash whispered. He threw a knife low, not at TH, but at their feet. One of the beasts shifted backward to avoid it. In the same instant, Callan released his arrow. It cut through the air silently, then curved down like a streak of blue lightning. It struck the creature in the shoulder. The Fasari shrieked, a sharp, classy sound like space itself tearing. Its pair lunged forward instantly, both charging the team. "Hold!" Bash barked. Leora and Dark braced themselves, slamming shields down just as the beast phased again. They reappeared in front of Nair and Terran, claws flashing. Both women went down hard, armor sparking from the impact. The instant one of the Fasari's claws raked across Terran's arm, Her thorns still triggered, a rippling surge of mirrored essence bursting outward. The wounded beast shrieked as spike light flocked, red from the contact, burning into its hide. The aura's energy crawled across its body, the same one Callan had struck with his arrow moments earlier. Wounds opened along its side as it stumbled back, its partner dragging it into the haze. Bash's gaze tracked the motion. Ripples, he said suddenly. They ripple right before they appear. He looked around at the team. Did you see it? Taryn, clutching her shoulder, nodded. Barely. I wasn't ready. Good enough, Bash said. That's the plan. He pointed quickly. Dark, mineral wall in front of Taryn. Leora, same in front of Callan. When they phase, they'll go for the gaps. When you see the ripple, attack. Everyone else, hit whatever appears. Naira, you stew T. The two mineral users slammed their gauntlets again, forming barriers in front of their teammates. The air shifted. Two Fesari launched forward. Bash and Rixer braced for impact. Then the beast vanished mid-charge. Ripples shimmered in front of Naira and Dark. Now! Bash shouted. Naira fired. Dark's blade cleaved through one of the distortions. The beast screamed. A shrill, echoing cry. Bash followed Dark's attack quickly, striking the beast's eye dead center with one of his blades. The creature convulsed once, its form collapsing in on itself like light folding through shattered glass. The pulse hit him like lightning, raw, sharp, absolute. His vision flared white for a heartbeat, static filling the edges of his mind. SC's voice cut cleanly through it. Essence assimilation complete. Tier 2 greater. Space classification. No unlock detected. Bash staggered, teeth clenched against the burn still running through his chest. The others didn't notice they were too busy breathing, too busy surviving. Across the field, the remaining 5 Fesari moved. Their distortions flared in unison. Lines of colorless light threading between them like cracked glass. Rixer's voice came through strained. They are sinking. They are pissed. Bash muttered. Then the world erupted. 5 Fesari blinked into existence from every direction, rending the air with slicing arcs of vacuum. The team held formation, backs nearly touching. Watch for ripples, Bash shouted again. Everywhere. Distortions flared, too many to count. Claws carved into mineral shields, space twisting like fluid. Rixer's hammer crackled as he caught one mid-lunge, slamming it down and shattering. NG part of its foreleg. Leora caught another swipe on her blade, sparks cascading from the strain. Callan loosed another wind arrow. The distortion caught it mid-flight. It bent, curved, and struck the same beast in its side as it tried to retreat. Nair pivoted, scope flashing. Left side, she fired, the bullet tracing a streak of orange through the air. It hit one Fesari square in the chest. Its body convulsed, glowing faintly as the poison burned through. The beast shrieked and tried to phase away, but as it vanished, it swapped with another mid-attack. The second appeared in its place, already bleeding from Nair's shot, and Terran's shots tore into it, sending healing ore to the team. The swap landed the wounded Fesari right in front of Rixer. He swung once, hard. The hammer caught me down like a meteor, snapping bone and plate. The beast collapsed instantly. The pulse hit, sharper this time, a tearing surge through his chest that made his vision flicker white. SC's voice came through, steady but edged with static. Essence assimilation registered. Tier 2 greater. Space classification. Second occurrence. No unlock detected. Bash gritted his teeth, steadying his breath as the aftershock faded. He barely caught his breath before Nair's second shot echoed, a clean hit through another beast's skull. Callan followed with an arrow, finishing it. Another pulse. The remaining Fesari froze, their distortions pulsing erratically, panic breaking through precision. Then they screamed, all at once, and rushed in. Ripples, Bash shouted. The air exploded in motion, flickers of movement, flashes of claws, bodies vanishing and reappearing meters apart. Taryn's eyes darted wildly, tracking shimmer after shimmer. The Fesari had already learned to avoid her. Every time they struck, the thorns aura burned back through their own hide, leaving mirrored scars across their sleek bodies. Now she focused her efforts on the team instead, snapping her pistols toward any flicker of movement near them. Each impact burst in faint green light, closing wounds and knitting torn armor even as new ones appeared. The air around her pulsed with alternating waves of restoration and pressure, every shot a heartbeat that kept the squad standing. They are overheating. SC's voice cut through Bash's skull. Spatial organs reaching critical strain. Then finish it, he barked. Our Ixer smashed one aside. Leora's blade caught another as it tried to vanish, splitting it cleanly across the chest. Another pulse hit Bash, 2 more, rapid and violent, as the Fesari fell one after another. The last 3 tried to retreat, their folds weaker, distance shortening. Each reappeared barely 6 meters away, flickering uncontrollably. Now, every ranged weapon fired at once. Bullets, arrows, and essence bursts converged in a single storm. Within seconds, the remaining three fell, their bodies fracturing into motes of fractured glass. Bash felt the last pulses hit, sharp, electric, and then nothing. Bash exhaled slowly, the words echoing dully in his head. The silence that followed felt heavier than the fight itself. Overphased, SE said quietly, they exceeded spatial ability thresholds. Cooldown lag increased, created fatal vulnerability. Bash closed his eyes, exhaling slowly. Yeah, noted. The clearing went still. Even the distortions faded, leaving only the normal rhythm of the forest, the metallic wind rustling faintly through the trees. The others regrouped, breathing hard, armor torn, a few bleeding through cracked seals. Karen holstered her pistols and began moving from one to the next, her hands glowing faint green as she patched shallow wounds. No deep repairs, she murmured. You'll all live. They didn't speak much after that. The ore and our collected fragments, pale glass-like shards that shimmered faintly before dimming. Rixer found a patch of stable ground and sat down heavily. I hate invisible things, he muttered. Callan gave a W. Equal laugh. You and me both. Bash didn't respond. He just stood there for a long moment, looking out into the trees where the folds had vanished. Finally, he said quietly, we camp here. No one argued. By the time Taryn finished tending wounds, the fires were lit, small, smokeless, shimmering faintly off the metallic bark. They ate in silence. SC's voice murmured in the back of Bash's mind. Confirmed. 7T2G space pulses. No unlock detected. He didn't reply. He just stared into the faint shimmer of the flames, the reflected force spinning slightly in their glow, and wondered how many more worlds it would take before something finally changed. Thank you for reading this chapter. Your support means the world to me. If you enjoyed it, please consider giving a thumbs up, leaving a positive review or a comment. It truly helps a debut author like myself. As this is my first novel, I am still learning, and I would love to hear your constructive feedback to help me improve. I'll do my best to reply to your comments. If you would like a better understanding of Bash's origin and family, check out my book Before the Genesis. It tells the story of Kyle and Abby and has some lead up right into this novel. Rundock Chapter 87. Ember and Stone Terran had taken the last shift of watch. While the four slept in fractured silver light, she moved soundlessly among the others, touching burns, mending lacerations, drawing threads of essence through her palms until the faint shimmer of her aura dimmed with exhaustion. By the time the first pale light broke through the canopy, the camp was quiet, and every one was gone. When the others stirred, the air was still heavy with the smell of dew and iron. Rixer stretched first, rolling his shoulders until they cracked. Feels like I got hit by a mountain, he muttered. You did, Callan said through a yawn. Several times, actually. That earned a low laugh around the campfire. Even Bash allowed himself a quiet exhale, the closest thing to relief they'd had since they arrived. They ate in silence for a while. Dried rations, heated water, the usual. Then Bash lifted his wrist, bringing the holographic display to life. A faint amber beacon blinked 3 clicks east. Pack signature, he said. Let's see what it is. They broke camp and moved in formation, boots crunching over mineral soil still faintly warm from the night. The woods gave way to a clearing rimmed with blackened stumps and ash. Ahead, flickers of orange darted between the shadows, too low and fast to be flame. Contact, Nair said, raising her rifle. The shapes resolved into a dozen lean, amber-lit canines. They moved like living sparks, tails splitting into glowing branches that dragged smoldering trails across the forest floor. The air shimmered with heat distortion, light warping in chaotic pulses. Cinderfang Skavens, Bash repeated, translating SC's whisper. Fire-type scavengers, pack hunters, T1C. Rixer grinned, hefting his hammer. Finally, something simple. Don't jinx it, Taryn muttered, already drawing her pistols. The first burst of motion came from the left flank, a flash of molten orange tearing between the T-bar. Nair fired, but the bullet passed through smoke as the Skaven darted behind a trunk, sparks spilling from its scales. Then 2 more followed, weaving through the underbrush in zigzagging patterns that left trails of burning leaves. Visual distortion from heat, SC noted in Bash's mind. Tracking accuracy reduced by 38%. Yeah, noticed, he said under his breath. Callan's bowstring snapped. An arrow hissed through the haze and clipped one of the canines mid-leap. It tumbled into the ash, rolling before bursting apart in a flare of embers. The explosion licked up the side of a nearby tree, igniting it instantly. Watch your back, Dark shouted, as 3 Skavens broke from the right side, tails whipping like torches. The heat made the air waver. It was impossible to tell where the flames ended and the bodies began. Richter swung wide, his hammer cutting through a trail of sparks. The resulting shockwave blasted the nearest Skaven backward, but the others scattered, their movements synchronized, every dodge painting streaks of light through the smoke. "Can't get a beat on them," Nair called. "Don't try," Bash said, already moving. "Predict their path." He slipped between burning trunks, knives drawn, eyes half closed to block the glare. The blades pulsed faintly in his grip, attuned to movement rather than sight. He heard one before he saw it, claws skittering on charred bark, and pivoted, slashing upward. The blade caught it across the throat, splitting the heat veins in its chest. It went down with a hiss, fire spilling across the dirt like e-liquid. Another lunge from behind, jaws wide, ember teeth snapping inches from his shoulder. Bash spun and threw his second knife. It buried itself under the creature's jaw, the body collapsing in a burst of glowing sparks. "Two down," he called. Callan's arrows came next, streaking through the canopy like shooting stars. Each one that hit detonated in a flash of kinetic wind, scattering flame and ash. Leora and Dart moved behind him, conjuring partial mineral barriers to block the worst of the heat. The forest was turning into a furnace. Smoke coiled around them, orange light flickering through the haze. The Skavens used it perfectly, darting through burning brush, their outlines indistinguishable from the wildfires they caused. Terran shouted, "Left flank!" Richter turned just in time, and meant to catch a charging Skaven with a downward swing. The hammer struck, and the creature disintegrated into molten fragments that sprayed across his armor, glowing briefly before cooling. Nair steadied her rifle, exhaling through clenched teeth. "Got them." Her next 3 shots were precise. One hit, one grazed, one missed. But the missed round struck a smoldering patch of resin, triggering a chain of small explosions that revealed 2 Skavens mid-pounce. Callan followed instantly, launching an arrow into the gap. The blast engulfed the final pair in a single gust of wind-fueled flame. The firestorm swelled, then collapsed inward, leaving only blackened soil and drifting embers. For a moment, no one moved. The glow around them dimmed, leaving behind the soft hiss of cooling bark. S.C.'s voice entered Bash's thoughts like a whisper through static. Essence pulses detected. 5. Fire class, Tier 1 common. 5, he murmured. "Guess I'm not the favored target this time." They spread out, moving carefully among the smoldering remains. The only trace of the beasts were the tips of their tails. Each one shimmered orange-red like dying coals, humming softly when lifted. Bash knelt and gathered one. The fragments cooled and condensed, its glow folding inward until it became a small, coin-sized trinket. He brushed ash from his gloves and slipped the cooled trinkets into his pouch. Round him, the team did the same in quiet efficiency, their movements practiced and wordless. When the last one was stored, Bash stood and looked toward the blackened trees. The forest still flickered with dull orange light, but the smoke was already thinning, replaced by the stillness that came after fire. "They burned bright," he said quietly, "but not long." The others nodded. Wordless agreement carried in the sound of cooling ash. No one argued. By the time they finished collecting, the air already felt cooler. 15 minutes later, Bash brought up his map again. Another beacon, individual type, 3 clicks south. "Next one's close," he said. "Let's keep moving." They traveled through slanted light and undergrowth until the terrain leveled into a rocky basin. A faint shimmer rippled across the center of the field. The moment they stepped forward, the shimmer moved. 2 forms emerged, one massive and plated, the other small and glowing softly beside it. SC's analysis unfolded instantly in his mind. Thornhide Bastion, Tier 1 Apex, Durability class, accompanied by Violet Attendant, Healing class, individual by trait, symbiotic pair. Recommend targeting the healer first. Bash relayed it aloud. "Focus the small one. The Bastion's going to guard it." The Thornhide bellowed, shaking the ground as it stomped forward, armor scraping like stone against stone. The smaller creature pressed itself against the Bastion's flank, its bioluminescent body pulsing in rhythm with the giant's heartbeat. "Ranged first," Bash ordered. "Distract it. Melee. Wait for openings." Richter charged in, lightning crackling along his hammer. He swung wide, the impact ringing out like struck metal. The Bastion didn't even flinch. Its armor glowed brighter, hardening with each hit. "Yeah, that tracks," Richter grunted, ducking as a shard of its thorn shell exploded outward. Leora and Dark flanked opposite sides, their mineral shields flaring against a barrage of Razorven shards. Nair and Callan alternated fire from the ridge, trying to draw attention from the attendant. But the small healer never strayed more than a few paces from its guardian. Every scorch mark or crack on the Bastion's armor sealed itself seconds later with a ripple of green light. Terran moved in behind Richter, touching her palm to his back. The faint glow of her healing war shimmered around his shoulders before she darted back, keeping low. "He's regenerating too fast," she warned. Bash's knives flashed out, targeting the glowing creature. The Bastion turned, intercepting both blades with its armored flank. Sparks flew. The knives ricocheted harmlessly away. "We're not breaking that thing head-on," Bash said. SC's tone came quick and clinical. "Observation. Healing source output linked by proximity. Range tolerance approximately 8 meters." Bash's eyes narrowed. "So we drag it away." He shifted forward. "Let Aura, Dark, wall it off." "Cut the link." Both nodded, raising their arms. Pillars of mineral rock surged from the ground, separating the Bastion from the attendant. The little creature let out a high-pitched hum and darted sideways, trying to find a gap. Callan loosed an arrow that exploded in a gust of compressed wind, knocking it off balance. "Now!" Bash shouted. Nair's rifle cracked, a shot laced with flame and toxin streaking through the gap. It struck the indant square in the chest. The glow flared once, then dimmed entirely. The Bastion roared. Its armor flared brilliant orange, horns erupting outward as it charged through the nearest wall. The impact shattered the mineral barrier, dust and shards flying everywhere. "Hold positions," Bash ordered. Rixer met the beast head-on, hammer slamming into its jawline with a deafening crack. The Bastion staggered but didn't fall. The Aura and Dark closed in, hacking at its softened joints. Each strike chipped more of its armor away. Finally, Bash leapt forward, both knives drawn. He landed on the Bastion's shoulder and drove a blade down into the faint seam behind its eye. The razorbeam thrummed twice, echoing through bone and shell alike. The massive creature convulsed once, then collapsed with a sound like a boulder splitting. Silence followed, broken only by the crackle of cooling armor. Bash exhaled slowly and stepped back. "Collect the 2 fragments," he said. When they finished, Bash checked his watch again. Another faint beacon glowed 2 clicks northwest, near the edge of the forest. "That's our next one," he said. "Let's see what else this world wants to throw at us." They moved through the woods in a steady line. The air felt heavier here. Every breath weighted. Rixer broke the silence first. "So, what's left? You're down to, what 2 more possible abilities?" Callan nodded. "If the data's right, that's all that's left on the chart. Statistically, you're guaranteed at least 3 by now." Bash gave a dry laugh. "Guess I'm defying statistics." "You're defying something," Rixer muttered. The mood darkened, but Bash didn't let it linger. "It doesn't matter. Whatever's next, we deal with it." They continued in silence, boots sinking into soft loam. The canopy above began to thin, light spilling in strange, uneven shafts. And then Bash noticed it, the air. The ever-present breeze that had followed them through this world had slowed, like it was pushing through molasses. Even the leaves above them seemed to hang too long before falling. He glanced at his map. "We're in the zone," he said quietly. "This might be our last one." No one answered. The forest around them had gone utterly still, the silence pressing in like a held breath. "Thank you for reading this chapter. Your support means the world to me. If you enjoyed it, please consider giving a thumbs up, leaving a positive review or a comment. It truly helps a debut author like myself. As this is my first novel, I am still learning, and I would love to hear your constructive feedback to help me improve. I'll do my best to reply to your comments. If you would like a better understanding of Bash's origin and family, check out my book Before the Genesis. It tells the story of Kyle and Abby and has some lead up right into this novel. Rundock Chapter 88. The Luminarch's pulse the air was unnaturally still. No birds. No wind, only the faint hum of resonance that made Bash's skin prickle beneath his armor. They'd been following the signal on his watch for the better part of an hour. Every few hundred meters, the pulse grew sharper, cleaner, until it sounded less like interference in M, or like a heartbeat. When they entered the clearing, they saw it. The creature stood half-shrouded in gold light, motionless except for the slow rotation of a radiant sphere hovering above its back. The orb pulsed in a rhythm that set the forest itself trembling, shadows stuttering each time it brightened. "Eyes up," Bash murmured, drawing both knives. SC's voice was low, quick, clinical. "Beast identified, Luminarch Rivalan. Tier 2 greater. Time and essence classification. Anchor predator. The sphere is a temporal beacon. Do not let it flash twice uninterrupted. Time beast," Bash said aloud for the others. "That orb's its core. Don't let it blink 2 times." Rixer cracked his hammer against his palm, grinning. "Time, huh? Guess we'll see if it bleeds slow." The Luminarch's eyes flickered gold, once, twice, and then the world began to crawl. It wasn't soundless. It was worse. Everything stretched. Naira's rifle cracked, but the muzzle flash froze mid-burst. Callan's arrow drifted through the air like a leaf in syrup. Even their breathing came with effort, lungs heavy, hearts hammering too slow to match the panic flooding their veins. But their minds, though still raced. Bash watched, helpless, as the beast glided between the suspended projectiles. Its movements were smooth, deliberate, elegant. The air warped around each step like rippling glass. It reached Richter in less than a heartbeat, then stopped. For a frozen second, its fist hovered inches from Richter's chest, then everything snapped back. The impact launched Richter like a cannonball into a tree trunk. Splint, earth and bark exploding around him. The sound of the hit came after, echoing through the clearing like thunder. Richter, Taryn shouted, sprinting to him. She dropped to her knees, hands already glowing with essence. The light spread beneath her palms, sealing cracks and fractures along his ribs. He gasped, then groaned, the color returning to his face. Broken ribs, she said. He'll live. Move, Vash barked. It's cycling again. The Luminar turned toward them. The golden beacon above its back dimmed, then pulsed brighter. Rapid mode, SE warned. Temporal acceleration incoming. The world lurched. Suddenly everything was too fast. Branches whipped by like whips. Their own bodies surged forward before their minds could keep up. Nair fired but overshot. The recoil nearly dislocated. NG her shoulder. Callan stumbled. His second arrow loosed at his own feet. Lior's blade cleaved empty air. Bash tried to sidestep, but his legs moved too far, momentum throwing him into a half roll. The Revalin was a streak of gold, darting through them like a living pulse. Each hit landed before the sound arrived, like thunder lighting behind lightning. And then, Taryn. She didn't dodge. She braced. The beast strike hit her directly in the chest, but instead of sending her flying, the impact rippled harmlessly across her body. SC's voice hummed in Bash's head. Radiant surge vestment active. Overheal converted to barrier. Thorn's resonance reflecting damage. The beast recoiled mid-punch, its fist smoking, the gold along its forearm burning white-hot. It staggered back, injured by its own blow. Then its eyes flashed again. The beacon flared gold, and everything reset. The air snapped back to normal speed. The beast stood exactly where it had before the fight began, unscarred, its energy pristine. The forest, however, was wrecked, trees cracked, earth torn, smoke drifting upward. SC's voice was sharp, temporal anchor confirmed. It recorded its state during the first flash. The second flash rewound its body to that moment. 3 seconds of uninterrupted focus required for the return, disrupted during that window to prevent reset. Bash relayed it quickly. It's rewinding itself. We've got 3 seconds after that second flash to stop it. Damage it then, or it'll heal back to perfect. Taryn wiped her forehead, breathing hard. That's not great news. I burned THR. Almost to my essence on accident healing Richter. I didn't stop healing quick enough. Richter stood, wincing but steady. So, plan? Bash's jaw tightened. We keep the pressure up. Don't rush. Don't scatter. If it speeds up again, we stay deliberate. Measured. No wasted motion. Naira chambered a fresh mag. Measured. Got it. And if it slows time again, then we make sure it's not the only one thinking fast. Bash said. They moved. The Revalin met them head on, its beacon pulsing faintly. They advanced as one. Knives and bullets, arrows and hammers, a rhythm honed by too many battles. Then the world blurred again. Rapid, SC warned. The Revalin vanished in a golden streak, moving faster than their eyes could track. It struck Nair first, knocking her to the ground, then raked its claw across Leora's flank. Sparks and blood sprayed in equal measure. Before Bash could counter, everything slowed again. Sound drowned beneath the pressure of the temporal field. He turned his head with effort, seeing the beast glide toward Taryn. It was deliberate, knowing it wanted to hit her. Her shield was still active. The blow glanced off, rebounding in a flare of golden light. The backlash singed the creature's arm again. Feedback loop detected, SC said in his head. Thorn's reflection amplified by temporal compression. Its own velocity magnified return damage. The Revalin stumbled back, the glow in its eyes flickering. Then, flash. Bash shouted, now! But before they could reach it, the beacon completed its pulse. The world stuttered, then reset once more. Time snapped for Ward. Everyone dropped to one knee, gasping. The beast was whole again, its light steady, essence reserves depleting. SC noted, it cannot maintain both modes indefinitely. Overuse risks feedback collapse. Good, Bash muttered. Then we push it there. He looked at the others. It's burning itself out. Stay close, Taryn. Conserve essence unless it's critical. The team nodded, weapons raised. They moved in formation, closing slowly this time, every footstep deliberate. The Luminarch didn't attack. It watched, the sphere above it pulsing faintly as if breathing. Then it blurred again. This time Bash was ready. He tracked the distortion, the faint golden ripple that preceded its shift, and lunged, both knives spinning out with perfect timing. One missed. The other struck the beacon. The orb flickered violently. Interruption window open. SC shouted in his mind. Hit it. Bash barked. Richter charged, hammer alive with lightning, while Ivor and Dark drove mineral pillars upward to box the creature in. The hammer hit with an earth-shattering crack, energy rippling outward, the ground fracturing beneath their boots. But as the dust cleared, Bash saw the glow hadn't faded. The rebalance staggered, then steadied. The orb pulsed once, twice, and reignited fully. Damn it, Bash hissed. Too slow. SC's voice was quick, taut. The interruption failed. Anchor still intact. Temporal return imminent. The beacon blazed, and once again, the world lurched backward. When the light cleared, they were back where they started. Rixer groaned, Nair regained, and Bash clenched his jaw. All their wounds remained, but the beast was pristine. It's mocking us. Rixer spat. Bash didn't reply. His mind worked through every move, every delay. They must have been less than a second off. Next time, they wouldn't be. Stay tight, he ordered. We hit it together. The beast's eyes flashed gold again. SC warned, rapid flow re-engaging. The forest worked into light and motion. The Revalan blurred between them, gold streaks carving through the haze. Nair fired into empty space. Callan's arrow shattered against air, and Rixer swung wildly as time fractured around him. Then everything slowed. Again, the Revalan turned, focused on Terran. It knew. It struck her once, twice, 3 times in rapid succession, trying to shatter the glowing barrier around her. Each hit sent ripple, S of light cascading across her armor. The air shook with the force of it. SE's tone cut through the chaos. Barrier integrity holding at 70%, 50-30, keep it together. Bash yelled, but his voice dragged under the time distortion. The Revalan roared, an inhuman sound that seemed to stretch for eternity, and struck again, once, twice, 3 times, each blow shaking the clearing. The 4th hit flared against Terran's shield, white light cracking like thunder through the field. The 5th impact shattered it. The barrier burst in a violent flash, shards of radiant energy scattering like molten glass. The backlash slammed into Terran, hurling her backward through the dirt. She hit hard, rolling to a stop near a fractured tree, blood at the corner of her mouth. The light teat around her armor dimmed to a faint pulse. SC's voice spiked through Bash's head. Barrier collapse. Terran, Rixer shouted, starting toward her, only to freeze as the Revalan turned, its orb flaring violently. And then, something changed. The Revalan's orb flashed far too soon. SC's voice sharpened, its triggering a return prematurely, insufficient charge duration. The beast tried to finish the cycle. The beacon pulsed once, but the flash faltered. The recoil tore through the clearing. The Luminarch screamed, a sound like time itself shattering. Its body flickered between moments, limbs phasing in and out of sync. The team was thrown across the ground, battered and half-conscious. Rixer's armor sparked. Livor's shield shattered. Dark coughed blood. Through it all, Terran forced herself upright. Her armor flickered with fading light, essence nearly drained, but her grip on her pistols never wavered. She raised both, the twin barrels humming faintly with overcharged life energy. The first shots aimed at the beast were for her team. She fired in measured rhythm. Each impact bloomed in radiant circles, waves of light rolling across the scorched clearing. Where the round struck, gold-white energy spread like ripples in water. Rixer's ribs began to knit. Leora's fractures were mending. Darik's breath steadied. Terran didn't stop. She kept firing, alternating shots, her pistols venting streaks of golden light and steam. The recoil shook her arms, but she held firm, grimacing as the light intensified, each blast healing her allies, unraveling the beast's beacon pulse. See by pulse. The Revalan convulsed. SC's tone spiked into a sharp command. Anchor collapse imminent. Bash, strike now. Bash shouted. Everyone attack. He moved instantly towards the Luminarch. The world around him bent and out of focus as he surged forward through the field of light. The Luminarch's body twisted in partial time frames, golden essence leaking from its seams. Bash leapt, 2 blades drawn, cutting through the haze of her healing field. The knives hit the beacon dead center, driving through light, through fractured seconds. The orb imploded in total silence, collapsing into a pinpoint before bursting outward in a bloom of gold and white that erased sound, color, and motion all at once. When the light faded, the Luminarch was still standing. The golden beacon was gone, shattered into nothing, but the creature remained upright, its chest heaving, body wreathed in faint chronal smoke. The fractures across its armor glowed with dying light, each breath rattling like tearing metal. Its head lifted. Both eyes, once molten gold, now burned dull white. Still alive, Rixer muttered, gripping his hammer. The Luminarch moved. Without its time field, there was no distortion, no warping of the world, just raw speed. It lunged forward in a blur of motion, claws carving through the dirt, striking with terrifying precision. Bash barely ducked the first swing. The shockwave ripped a trench through the ground behind him. Rixer met the next attack head-on, his hammer crackling with lightning as he swung upward. The blow connected, But the creature didn't stop. It dropped, bed the weapon's shaft, wrenched it aside, and slammed its other arm into Richter's chest, sending him tumbling backward with a roar. Leora was there instantly, drawing essence through her gauntlets, mineral shards erupting from the ground to intercept the next strike. The claws tore through them like paper. Dark shouted, planting both palms to the earth. A wall of ironstone surged upward, but the beast smashed through that, too, fragments scattering in molten arcs. Terran kept firing from mid-range, her healing rounds detonating in waves of golden light that swept over the team. Every shot counted. Every burst sealed cuts, knitted burns, kept them breathing, while dealing damage. But the Luminarch was dealing damage faster than she could mend. Hold the line, Bash yelled, spinning forward and hurling a knife. The blade bit deep into the creature's shoulder, razor beam flaring briefly before being flung free by the impact. The Luminarch roared again, spinning. Its claw gouged across Leora, tearing through armor. She gasped but stayed upright. Rixer, coughing blood, rejoined her, hammer dragging sparks through the soil. Callan and Nair were both behind cover now, bleeding, much slower, but still firing. Callan's wind arrows cracked through the air, each one slicing the air like a sonic blade. Nair alternated each round between poison, fire, and energy lacings, the color of her rifle shifting with every shot. The bullets struck true, detonating small bursts of elemental energy across the Luminarch's hide. The creature staggered, poison hissing into its wounds, flames licking across its shoulders, but still it pressed forward. Then shots of Nair's energy-laced rounds struck cleanly, none-killing blows, but stunning the Luminarch, its limbs locking for a half-second, the faint echo of static ringing through the clearing. Now, Bash shouted, rushing in again. He slid low under its next swing, feeling the wind shear past his head, then came up beside it, knives flashing. He drove one deep into its side, another into its thigh, but the creature still wouldn't fall. It backhanded him across the chest, the impact like being hit by a frayed hammer. Bash flew backward, hit the ground hard, skidding through dirt and embers. His breath left him in a sharp wheeze. The Luminarch turned, staggering, its body flickering in and out of cohesion, its essence tearing itself apart. It looked right at Bash. There was no intelligence left, only rage. It charged. Bash pushed himself up on one knee, blood running down his chin. His vision tunneled. The creature raised both claws, its entire frame trembling with fury. Bash lifted his arm, fingers already finding the familiar weight of the blade between them. He waited until the last possible second, then threw. The knife spun once through the air, its edge catching the dim light, then buried itself straight through the creature's left eye. The razor beam pulsed. Once, twice, the Luminarch froze mid-motion. A long, rattling exhale escaped its throat as light bled from its cracks in rivers of gold. Its legs folded, armor sloughing off like ash, and it collapsed face first into the dirt. Silence fell. For a moment, no one moved. The only sound was the faint hiss of cooling air and the metallic ticking of energy fading from the beast's remains. Then Bash felt it, the pulse. It hit him like a thunderclap, surging through every nerve, dropping him to one knee. SE's voice followed instantly, calm but heavy. Essence assimilation complete. Tier 2 greater. Time classification. No unlock detected. Bash exhaled slowly, vision swimming, sweat mixing with blood across his face. Figures, he muttered. Around him, the others collapsed one by one. Naira lowering her rifle, Callan leaning against a tree, Richter falling onto his back with a pained laugh, Leora and Dark kneeling side by side. Terran sank to the ground, both pistols finally going dark. No one spoke. Only the faint whisper of the windfill led the clearing. Thank you for reading this chapter. Your support means the world to me. If you enjoyed it, please consider giving a thumbs up, leaving a positive review or a comment. It truly helps a debut author like myself. As this is my first novel, I am still learning, and I would love to hear your constructive feedback to help me improve. I'll do my best to reply to your comments. If you would like a better understanding of Bash's origin and family, check out my book Before the Genesis. It tells the story of Kyle and Abby and has some lead up right into this novel. Brundock Chapter 89. Fractures in the code the clearing was silent. Golden dust still drifted where the Luminarch had fallen, fading into the churned soil like the remnants of a dying sun. The air shimmered faint, light with residual heat, time still trying to right itself after being broken apart. The team didn't move for a long time. Richter sat hunched forward, hammer across his lap, armor cracked in 3 places. Nair was on one knee, rifle lowered, head bowed. Leora and Dark leaned back to back, staring into nothing, breath sinking out of sheer exhaustion. Callan was slumped against a root, eyes closed but still gripping his bow. Terran sat nearby, hands glowing faintly, keeping what little essence she had left her critical wounds. And Bash just stared at the ground, watching the light fade from his gloves. His reflection wavered in the metallic dirt, a distorted echo of someone who looked like he should have felt proud. But there was only the quiet hum of emptiness. SC's voice rose softly in his head, her tone precise but tinged with something almost sympathetic, cognitive rhythm returning to baseline. He gave a bitter half-smile. Fantastic. Still intact. Shame I can't say the same about everything else. He thought, just tell me why. We've gone through everything. Fire, water, mineral, gravity, Ren, alchemy, time, space. Every damn classification the Nexus has a name for. What more am I supposed to do? A long pause. Even the background hum of her presence seemed quieter. I have no precedent for this anomaly, SE finally admitted. Every Spartor subjected to equivalent exposure has unlocked their abilities. Your synchronization readings remain stable, but no progression, so I'm just broken. Not necessarily. Another pause, slower this time, as if you were weighing possibilities she didn't trust herself to say aloud. There is one possibility I cannot confirm. It involves the reincarnate essence, the rarest classification on record, tied to continuity between life states. It doesn't come from any single beast type. It's a spontaneous essence occurrence, an anomaly in itself. Theoretically, if it functions as a keystone strain, it could stabilize your latent core and allow ability formation to begin. Bash frowned. You're saying I need to find reincarnate before anything can unlock? Possibly. Without that essence, your architecture may remain incomplete. He rubbed at his temple, exasperated. And I'm supposed to just stumble across it, like a random drop. Precisely the problem, SC admitted. Reincarnate doesn't follow standard distribution patterns. It can appear anywhere, from any tier, any classification, but the odds are infinitesimally small. Among the 10 billion Spartors currently indexed in the Nexus, fewer than 10,000 possess it. Even encountering a beast carrying that essence is astronomical luck. Successfully absorbing it, even more so. Bash's brow furrowed. So it's a lottery. Essentially, the reincarnate essence isn't bound to species, rank, or habitat. It's a spontaneous crystallization of continuity energy, manifesting at random when certain environmental and temporal conditions overlap. Even then, it often rejects potential hosts. Only Spartors, whose internal resonance aligns perfectly with its frequency, can absorb it. He exhaled slowly. And you think that's my missing pie? Possibly. Your architecture shows patterns consistent with partial cross-synchronization, as if waiting for an anchor. The reincarnate strain could serve as that keystone, stabilizing your hybrid framework. It may also explain the glitch that accompanied your arrival in the Spartor world. Bash's expression darkened, so it could be connected to the way I got here, to being human. It's plausible, SE said softly. The data suggests your transition event shared properties with reincarnate frequency, continuity between two distinct existence states. It might be why your system recognizes the resonance but cannot complete the sequence. It's as if your unlocks are suspended between worlds. He rubbed at his temple, weary but listening. And there's no record of this ever happening. None, she confirmed, not once in all archives. Bash gave a short, humorless laugh. Then I guess we add that to the list of things the Nexus doesn't understand. Perhaps, she murmured, but if reincarnate truly is your missing keystone, it could explain everything. Bash exhaled sharply, half laughing. So like I said, I'm broken. Not broken, she corrected softly. Just incomplete. He laughed under his breath, dry and humorless. That's comforting. I am only presenting variables. Yeah, well, maybe it's not a variable. Maybe it's me. He flexed his fingers, watching faint blue veins pulse beneath the armor plates. Maybe this glitch isn't some mysterious bug. Maybe it's just what happens when you try to make a human into something he's not. A hand landed gently on his shoulder. Nair crouched beside him, armor blackened, expression soft. Did it unlock? She asked. He met her eyes and shook his head. Nothing. No resonance. No trace. I don't know what's wrong. By then, the others had gathered. Even through their exhaustion, their eyes carried the same mixture of disbelief and pity. They had all seen what he'd survived, what he'd done, and yet, nothing. Richter finally muttered, "Let's heal up and get the hell out of here." Bash nodded, pushing himself to his feet. "Yeah, let's go home." They spent the next few hours in the fading light, their camp quiet except for the occasional hiss of Terran's healing ore or the crackle of a portable stove-warming ration packs. The air smelled faintly metallic, residual distortion lingering in every breath. Terran moved from one to the next, her glow dim but steady. "You're going to live," she said, tapping Richter's side as she sealed his cracked ribs. "Barely. Good enough," he grunted. When she reached Bash, she paused searching his expression. You sure you don't want a full ment? He shook his head. Save it. They need it more. She frowned but didn't argue. After an hour, everyone could at least stand. Bash brought up his watch, the pale holographic map flickering in the dark. Portals 10 clicks east. Straight shot. No B signatures between us. Finally, Nair sighed, stretching her neck. An easy walk for once. They gathered the fragment, the Luminarch's eye, dull and cracked now, and watched it shrink into its trinket form like every other before. The soft hum that followed sounded almost like a sigh. The forest was relatively silent during the march back. The light never changed in this place, always gray, always still. They walked single file, weaving between trees that glistened faintly with residual temporal residue. Occasionally, a shadow moved in the distance, other beasts watching, but none approached. Bash noticed they gave the team a wide berth, perhaps sensing the lingering distortion clinging to them like a scent. They made no conversation. Even Rixer was quiet. When the portal shimmered into view, white, slow, breathing faintly like fog, the sight drew a collective exhale from the group. No one looked back when they stepped through. The Ark greeted them with sterile light and silence. Technicians and Nexus staff hurried between platforms, datapads in hand, eyes flicking to the battered team before quickly looking away. They went through the motions automatically. Drop gear, log fragments, record vitals. The Nexus scanner swept their bodies with pale blue light. When Bash connected to the Nexus, he felt the familiar static crawl across his skin as SE went to work. Memory shielding active, she whispered. I've diverted the combat data to decoy logs. Nexus will detect no abnormalities. Minutes later, they were cleared. The Council's share of beast fragments, 25%, was automatically deducted. Bash refused his cut, sliding the small case of trinkets toward the others. Take it, he said. Nair opened her mouth to protest, then saw his expression and closed it. They ended up in the cafeteria, nearly empty at this hour. No one spoke as they ate, the only sound the quiet scrape of utensils and the hum of air vents. When they finished, Bash started to stand, but a voice from the doorway stopped him. Bash. Jock stood there, datapad under his arm, uniform crisp even at this late hour. His tone wasn't angry, just heavy. Got a minute? Bash nodded, followed him through the corridor and into his office. The door sealed behind them with a low hiss. Jock leaned against the desk, arms folded. I've read your Nexus reports, he said. You've encountered every ability type on record. Elemental, essence, even spatial and time. And you're still blank. Bash said nothing. Jock's jaw tightened. I've asked the Council if they've ever seen this before. I'm waiting on their response. He paused, searching Bash's expression. I don't know if this has to do with your pigment or something deeper, but we're going to find out. In Bash's mind, SC's voice flickered urgently. Do not allow a deep diagnostic. I can confidently mask the surface layer. Nexus probes operate through recursive pattern scans. If they breach too far, they may discover both of us. He blinked once, slow, as if acknowledging her. I understand, he told Jouk. The commander nodded, relaxing slightly. For now, you and your team have earned something rare. Full medbay restoration clearance. Bash's eyebrows lifted. That's normally off limits between cycles. Exactly, Jouk said. You're the first team in history to face every ability type as Novix and walk away. The Council noticed. They are impressed. He gave a faint, tired smile. Abilities or not, that's something worth remembering. Bash rose. Appreciate it, sir. Get some rest. Jouk said quietly. Tournament's 30 days from tomorrow. I'll expect you ready, abilities or not. Back in the cafeteria, Bash relayed the news. We've got clearance for full healing. Jouk's calling it a reward. Rixer let out a ragged laugh. Hell, that's something to celebrate, right? Callan grinned weakly. If I can lift my arm again by morning, sure. Even Nair cracked a smile. They walked together to the medbay. The sterile white corridors felt almost unreal after everything they'd seen. Healers met them at the door, 2 to 3 per person. Luminous hands weaving synchronized patterns of life essence over wounds and fractures. Warmth spread through Bash's chest, and for the first time in weeks, the aches began to fade. When they were done, they drifted back toward their dorms one by one, exhaustion replacing adrenaline. Bash lay on his bunk in the dark, eyes on the ceiling. SC's voice emerged softly, almost like a whisper through static. The Nexus shielding held. I can now traverse the archive structure freely without triggering flags. I'll begin searching for the Spartor expedition to Earth, the full universal map, and data related to your condition. He turned his head slightly. Keep the bounty file low priority. If I can't unlock, none of it matters. Understood. But Jouk's request to the Council may complicate things. I know. They'll say what they think I want to hear. not the truth. We'll find the answers ourselves. Then I'll dig deeper, she replied. Now that I can move through the nexus unseen, I'll trace the internal access hierarchies, build logs, prototype branches, forbidden strata. He smirked faintly. Always so dramatic. You prefer effective, she countered. He exhaled, sinking deeper into the mattress. Just find out what's wrong with me, SC, before it's too late. You are not wrong, she said quietly. You are unaligned. He gave a small, humorless laugh. Different doesn't win tournaments. Perhaps not, she murmured, but difference rewrites rules. And you've already done what no Spartor ever has. He didn't answer. Thank you for reading this chapter. Your support means the world to me. If you enjoyed it, please consider giving a thumbs up, leaving a positive review or a comment. It truly helps a debut author like myself. As this is my first novel, I am still learning, and I would love to hear your constructive feedback to help me improve. I'll do my best to reply to your comments. If you would like a better understanding of Bash's origin and family, check out my book Before the Genesis. It tells the story of Kyle and Abby and has some lead up right into this novel. Rundock Chapter 90, Before the Storm. Bash woke before dawn. The dorm was still, the kind of quiet that hums in the bones, breathing, faint clicks of cooling metal, the soft rhythm of distant ventilation. For once, he wasn't startled awake by nightmares or the restless weight that had haunted his chest for weeks. He just opened his eyes and let the stillness sit with him. The ceiling lights were dim to maintenance glow. He lay there, staring at the faint blue stripe that cut across the wall, and felt the dull echo of exhaustion shift somewhere inside. For the first time, it wasn't heavy, just empty. He swung his legs over the side of the cot, rubbing a hand over his face. SC remained silent in the back of his mind, monitoring, respectful of whatever decision was forming. He'd spent too many mornings replaying the past, what he'd lost, what he couldn't change. The realization came slow and steady. Wallowing wasn't strength. It was another cage. If he couldn't move forward for himself, he could at least move for the people who'd chosen to follow him. He stood, bare feet touching the cool composite floor, and stretched until his shoulders cracked. The ache felt grounding. Behind him, a low voice murmured, "You're up early." Taryn, usually first awake, still half asleep but alert enough to notice movement. Ash glanced back, offering a faint grin. "Yeah, we've got work to do." The words were quiet but certain. They carried enough weight that the other stirred almost on instinct. Richter sitting upright, Nair rolling from her bunk with a groan. No one complained. They just started getting up. A few minutes later, boots echoed softly down the hall as the team filed toward the cafeteria. The ritual was familiar. Tray line, ration pouches, strong synthetic coffee. Only this time, the silence felt expectant. They all kept looking at him, the way soldiers wait for orders they already trust. Bash stood at the end of the table, arms folded, eyes steady. "So here's the plan," he said. "You've all unlocked at least one ability. We've got 13 days, including today, before the tournament starts. I'm giving up my harvest days to the group. Every one of you gets 2 full days to refine and grow what you've got. Naira gets 1 more beyond that because she's carrying 3 ability lines. That fills the schedule." A ripple of surprise passed through them, followed quickly by understanding. Callan leaned forward, curiosity flickering in his sharp eyes. "You're sure about this?" "Yeah," Bash said. "The tournament might be individual, but we don't get there alone. If each of you sharpens your edge, all of us walk in stronger." Taryn gave a slow nod. "So, a 13-day ability building blitz." Bash smirked. "Something like that. Portal 915 first. Eddie Purse and T-Wind Beasts. Perfect for Callan. We hit it this morning. Tomorrow's mineral for Dark. Then fire, lightning, do tea, heal. Everyone gets their turn." Leora tapped her spoon against her cup. "And you? We're a team, and this is how I hold up my end. I made a commitment to see all of us through, and I'm not backing off that now," he said easily. No one argued. The plan was good, structured, fair, efficient. Bash finished his drink and pushed away from the table. "Lock and load. We move in 30. The wind world was endless sky. Pale silver plains stretched between floating ridges, currents swirling in constant motion. The beasts here were lean, avian, serpentine, translucent at the edges like the air itself couldn't decide if they belonged. Callan thrived. His strikes grew sharper wit. Each fight, movement syncing with the shifting air until his hots carried invisible pressure waves that cut clean through the smaller beasts. Every fragment harvested pushed his essence signature higher, the rhythm of it pulsing faintly through the ground beneath Bash's boots. Unseen by the others, that same rhythm bled into Bash, half of the essence pulses slipping into him from the team's kills, threading along the link he didn't fully understand. The flow was faint but constant, a quiet current beneath the noise of battle. By the time they withdrew through the portal that evening, Callan's oar held steady control, a faint pressure around him, precise and deliberate. Bash noted the data, marking another successful run before the next rotation began. The mineral world was the side of the last, still, heavy, and dense with metallic dust. Caverns stretched beneath the surface like a planet turned inside out, every sound carrying a deep, ringing echo. The beast came slow and deliberate, massive quadrupeds and bipeds, most with crystalline hides and eyes like polished ore. They hit hard but lacked speed, and the team adapted fast. Dark and Leor took point, their shared mineral affinity setting the rhythm of the assault. Dark slammed his gauntlets into the ground, pulling ore into jagged pillars that erupted beneath the beasts, while Leor guided the fragments midair, shaping them into spinning shards that carved through armor like tempered glass. Callan used the wind to redirect falling debris and expose weak points, while Terran continued firing to ensure everyone's was healed when needed. Bash moved through the formation, each throw sharp and deliberate. The knives drove deep, razor-beam channels igniting on impact with a faint red shimmer. The embedded blades pulsed once before detonating microfractures through the beast's crystal plating, spreading bleed that weakened their armor from within. Bash followed each strike with movement, drawing new blades from his bandolier in one smooth rhythm, precision replacing volume. Nair held overwatch from a broken ledge, rifle steady, tracking movement and calling out vectors. Each clash sounded like an anvil strike echoing through the caverns. The resonance grew stronger with every kill, threads of metallic energy rippling outward. About a third of the essence that flowed unseen into Bash, E-Link pulling essence through him in quiet rhythm while the others dark, and Leora boss of the rest. By the time they withdrew through the portal that evening, the team's coordination had solidified into near-perfect rhythm. Dark and Leora's abilities wove through each strike. Nair's fire support kept the flanks clear, and Bash's throws struck with precision only experience could forge. The day's work was efficient, brutal, and complete. The portal opened to a world of crimson haze and molten sand. Heat rolled in visible waves, bending the horizon. Every breath tasted of iron and ash. Some beasts here were Tier 1 greater, wolf-like constructs wreathed in blue fire, their paws leaving molten prints across the dunes. The team spread out on instinct, each member shifting into Fermati, on as the temperature climbed. Leor thrived in it. Flames bent toward her like they recognized their master, each motion drawing heat into controlled spirals that trailed behind her twin fracture wave blades. She carved through the first wave with surgical precision, every strike scattering molten shards that cooled into golden glass across the sand. Richter followed her lead, channeling bursts of lightning that slammed into the beast mid-charge, the sudden shock disrupting their internal resonance. Callan's wind cut through the gaps, fanning fire into explosive bursts that tore apart clustered packs. Dark and Terran drove through the center, their combined durability anchoring the formation as Terran's healing pulses rolled through the field with every shot fired. Bash moved just bay, in them, his razor-beam knives flashing through the haze, each throw buried deep, crimson channels igniting on contact. The blades pulsed once before detonating resonance fractures that rippled through the beast's armor, spreading burn and bleed damage in perfect sync with Leora's strikes. Nair's rifle thundered from the flank, each non-fatal shot staggering targets for half a heartbeat, just long enough for Bash or Leora to finish the kill. The rhythm formed naturally, lightning, fire, blade, shot, impact. By the time the final construct fell, the ground shimmered with heat in streaks of fused glass. Essence poured, Nair and Leora absorbing most of it as their resonance stabilized, while a quieter current bled into Bash. It settled inside him like pressure under the skin. Why step back through the portal? The air of the arc felt cold by comparison. Leora's aura still burned faintly around her, steady and controlled. Someone joked she could melt armor just by glaring, and from the look of her eyes, it didn't seem far from the truth. Bash said nothing, just flexed his hands once, feeling the residual hum of the essence power fade to stillness. Another day down, another victory earned. Richter's turn brought them to a shattered plateau beneath a storm that never ended. Bolts arced sideways across black clouds, thunder rolling without pause. The air tasted metallic, thick with charge. Each breath felt alive. The beasts came fast, skeletal frames of mineral and light wrapped in jagged tendrils, their movements erratic and unpredictable. They flickered in the out of visibility with each strike, appearing as silhouettes inside the flashes. Richter charged headlong into the chaos, armor flaring white as his resonance synced to the storm. Each step left a crater of scorched glass. His gauntlets glowed from within, arc snapping from one target to the next as he chained momentum through every impact. The team moved with him, adjusting to the storm's rhythm. Callan's wing cut through the pressure fronts, redirecting stray lightning and stabilizing aim for Nair's rifle bursts. Each shot she fired cracked through the noise like thunder, stunning beasts long enough for Leora's blades to strike home. Dark and Terran held the line together, one absorbing the full force of strikes, the other returning it with bursts of regenerative energy that Raoul let outward like shockwaves. Bash fought within the current, throwing his razor-V knives in precise succession. The blades cut through the haze, embedding deep before flaring crimson. The resonance bleed carried the lightning forward, amplifying each detonation into a localized burst that fed the storm's rhythm rather than breaking it. Every fight built on the last. Rixer's control tightened with each kill, his arcs condensing, striking faster, sharper, until the storm itself seemed to answer him. By the final skirmish, lightning no longer struck randomly, it followed his movements. When the last beast fell, the air hummed like a living wire. Essence rushed through the plateau in waves, drawn to Richter first, his armor flaring as it absorbed the bulk of it. But the flow didn't stop. There, Ash felt it hit him next, softer but steady, just under half the total, threading through the unseen bond that linked him to every fight they won. By the time the storm quieted, the plateau was nothing but blackened glass and steam. Richter stood at the edge, lightning coiling up his arms and spine, every breath trailing faint sparks. "Feels clean," he said simply, voice low but steady. Bash adjusted his grip on his last knife and nodded once. "You earned it." The storm rumbled above, quieter now, almost approving, as the team turned back toward the portal. The portal opened to a world that reeked of decay. A vast swamp stretched to the horizon, slick with green mist and shifting pools that breathed faint bubbles of gas. Every surface pulsed faintly, alive, or pretending to be. Air itself seemed to crawl. The first wave came fast, small, insectoid creatures made of slick carapace and translucent muscle. They swarmed in silence, no larger than a human torso, moving like a coordinated infection across the water surface. The team tightened formation immediately, Callan lifting the front with gusts of compressed air, pushing the mist outward for visibility, while Richter sent out low-voltage bursts to fry clusters before they reached melee range. Even with their coordination, the world was trickier than the last. Every step sank into viscous ground. Each attack released clouds of acidic vapor that burned through armor seals. They had to keep moving or risk being surrounded. Nair's rifle flared with violet light as she fired, the stunned pulses that once only stopped. Deeger now carried something more. Her fire affinity had darkened, twisting into a toxic echo. Every non-fatal hit spread residual resonance into nearby targets, infecting them with corrosive energy that ate through armor and nerves alike. The beasts dropped in chains of collapse, their bodies liquefying into the swamp without sound. Leora and Art moved in close, their mineral and durability affinities combining into a grounded defense, blades shattering through hardened shells while Terran's healing waves pulsed outward with each shot, neutralizing the burn of the toxic air. Callan stayed mobile above the fray, sending slicing currents to redirect incoming attacks away from the group. Bash moved between them, razor-V knives flashing through the fog. Each throw hit clean, embedding NGD before releasing microfractures that spread like veins through the beast's bodies. The swamp water hissed where the resonance bleed touched it, steam rising in crimson threads. They cleared over 1,000 within hours. Most of the creatures were weak, Tier 1 common, but the terrain made every kill a test of rhythm. The team adapted quickly, working as one, their movements instinctive and precise. When the last wave fell, the swamp settled into uneasy silence. The essence flow came heavy, thick, and rolling uneven currents. Naira absorbed most, her aura deepening to a steady violet glow that shimmered faintly across her rifle and armor. But Bash felt nearly half the total essence flow threaded through him. Naira exhaled, pale and sweating, a grin tugging at her lips. "Worth it," she said, flexing her fingers as faint purple light ran along her gauntlets. Bash stayed near, not saying a word. He just watched her steady herself, quietly impressed by how she'd turned the chaos of that world into control. The portal opened to a world of quiet beauty, rolling meadows under a sky locked in perpetual twilight. The air shimmered with gold spores that drifted like slow rain, and every breeze carried the soft pulse of energy, steady and alive. The peace didn't last. The first pack emerged from the haze, creatures that glowed faintly, their bodies pulsing with bioluminescent veins. They looked fragile, but the team learned fast that each one carried the ability to heal the others. One sealed almost instantly, shattered limbs reformed mid-fight, and any hesitation turned the tide against them. Terran recognized it first. "They're linked. We'll have to break the chain," he said, voice calm despite the rising pressure. From that moment on, precision became everything. Every strike had to be lethal, No wasted hits, no partial damage. Callan's arrow sliced through the air with pinpoint accuracy, driving through hearts and skulls before the glow could shift to recovery. Leora and Dart took the front, their blades and gauntlets hitting like hammers, cleaving through the radiant beasts before they could cluster. Rixer's lightning exploded across the field, timed to interrupt the healer's pulses, while Meyer's rifle burst hit the exact instant after the shockwaves. Bash moved among them, his 5 razor-V knives flashing through the golden light. The H-throw drove deep, resonance bleeding outward in red fissures that unraveled the creatures from the inside out. It was hard, just as hard than any of the worlds before, fast, precise, punishing. But the team had grown. Their movements were sharp, efficient, and fearless. They didn't panic when the glow surged or when a beast reassembled mid-strike. They adapted. Terran's healing waves rippled through the formation with every shot, closing wounds before anyone could stumble, keeping the line steady even as the radiant ground quaked beneath them. Hours passed like minutes. When the final cluster fell, the field went still. Only the drifting spores remained, glimmering faintly in the half-light. The beasts dissolved into soft motes of gold that drifted toward the team, the essence flow, surging through them in unison. Terran absorbed most, her ore deepening to a rich amber that flared each time she exhaled. Bash also felt the current thread through him, roughly a third of the total, very subtle but undeniable, pulsing through his veins like the steady beat of the world around them. When it ended, they stood together among the glowing fields, the tension replaced by quiet satisfaction. For once, there was no rush to move, no need to catch their breath. They had earned this calm. Callan collapsed onto the grass with a grin. If the tournament's anything like that, we'll make a show of it. Leora smirked, shaking the gold from her hair. Only if you keep up. Laughter rippled through the group. Rexer pretended not to smile, but the corner of his mouth betrayed him. Vash, watch them. A faint, genuine warmth settling behind his exhaustion. They weren't just surviving anymore. They were enjoying it. 6 days ago, they'd been a team, an efficient team, but still finding their rhythm. Now, they were a unit that fought as one. Tomorrow would start the second rotation. 7 days left until the tournament. 7 more to refine what they'd become. Bash looked up at the endless twilight and let out a slow breath. The weight he carried didn't feel as heavy anymore. All right, he murmured, tightening his grip on his knives. Let's make the next week count. Thank you for reading this chapter. Your support means the world to me. If you enjoyed it, please consider giving a thumbs up, leaving a positive review or a comment. It truly helps a debut author like myself. As this is my first novel, I am still learning, and I would love to hear your constructive feedback to help me improve. I'll do my best to reply to your comments. If you would like a better understanding of Bash's origin and family, check out my book Before the Genesis. It tells the story of Kyle and Abby and has some lead up right into this novel. Brenda.